Good morning, students. I came to know from the queries which were dropped in my inbox that many of you have problem about clause, specifically noun clause. So I decided to make this video today in which I will be vividly describing and discussing what is a noun clause, what are the various types of noun clause, and how to join sentences using noun clause. So first of all, I should give a brief introduction to what is a phrase and what is a clause and the difference between them. But there are other videos which exemplify about this part of phrase and clause more vividly. Here I'll only stick to a brief introduction. A phrase is actually a group of words, wherein a clause is a group of words which has a subject of its own and a verb of its own. By verb, I mean finite verb. That is a verb which conveys a complete sense. That is a clause. Okay? And clauses are of two types, main clause and subordinate clause. Now, main clause does not have any category. Like noun clause, adjective clause, adverb clause, these terms are not these terms are not at all linked with the main clause. This categorization according to the purpose or the type or the function they are playing in the sentence is basically restricted to the area of subordinate clause, right? So now, as you already know, if I tell you that how many parts of speech are there, so students, what will you tell me? There are eight parts of speech. So we know that the major parts of speech are noun, adjective, adverb, right? I'm not talking about the remaining right now because they are not involved in the clause. So these three, we know what they mean. So let's see. What is a noun? As we know from our nursery classes that noun is a naming word. So what do we mean by a naming word? A word that conveys the name of something. It can be the name of a thing, a place, an animal, and in that way we have learned how common noun, abstract noun, collective noun, these categories we have learned. But if I tell you, say the little girl was playing in the park. So here, which is the noun? Girl, right? But if I tell you which is the phrase here, the noun phrase, then what will be your answer? The little girl. So these three words taken together forms or plays the role of the noun phrase. Now you will ask me, ma'am, why? How do you know that this forms the role of the noun clause, the noun phrase? So here I have a very easy solution for you. Ask the question to the sentence with the interrogative word who. That should be the question word in case of finding the noun phrase or the noun clause. Either of the three. So if I tell you that who was playing in the park, what will be the answer? The little girl. Therefore, the little girl is the noun phrase. Now, if I tell you who is the noun? Girl. Now coming to the portion where we are going to discuss, then what is the noun clause? Phrase and simple noun we have understood. This introduction is very much necessary because these are like concentric circles. How so? A small point. From there I draw another larger circle. A point is also a circle. After that another larger circle. What is that called? Noun phrase. Another large circle, noun clause. So we are moving out slowly. First the point, then a bigger circle, then the larger circle. But what is the function of all the circles? It is they are performing the role of the noun. That is why the center is the same. The center is the same. The radius is changing. Concentric circles, that is the property of concentric circles. You have the same radius, the same center, but the radius keeps increasing. Right? So in that way we find a noun phrase, a noun clause. So now let's see. Just as noun plays the role of a subject, of object to preposition, of subjective complement, similarly noun clause is also doing the same thing. I'll take one by one example. First, as I told you, the little girl example. Now, how to use the noun clause as a subject. In that sentence, we saw noun, girl is the noun, the little girl is the noun phrase. Now we are going to cultivate on, then how is noun clause used as a subject? Let's see. That he is going to succeed is known to all. That he is going to succeed is known to all. So, what is known to all? What is known to all? That he is going to succeed. So, as I have already told you, when you want to find the noun clause, you are going to question with who, in case of non-living, what. That was a living object, girl, but if it is non-living object, what? So who or what, both in Bengali, actually they convey ki ba ke, right? So that he is going to succeed is known to all. So look at this sentence. So if I break the sentences into two parts, what is known to all? That he is going to succeed. Now you will ask me that, ma'am, is known to all. You are saying that what is known to all. Then how can that be the main clause? That cannot stand on its own. Is known to all. Very pertinent. So now let me tell you. If I tell you a sentence like this, within brackets, it is known to all. Isn't that a complete sentence? Doesn't it make sense? Definitely it does. But that he is going to succeed. You cannot complete this sentence in any way, whatever word you may add or omit. So this is going to be the subordinate clause and the noun clause. And what is the main clause? Is known to all. Because if you put it within bracket at the beginning of the sentence, what do you get? It is known to all. A complete sentence. So that is the main clause. And what is the subordinate clause? That he is going to succeed. Okay? If I now tell you, it is known to everyone that he is going to succeed. Again, this is going to play the role of a noun clause. It is known to all that he is going to succeed. I have inverted the order of the sentence. The first was that he is going to succeed is known to all. In the second case, I have inverted the order of the sentence and now I am saying it is known to all that he is going to succeed. So in this case, I have inverted the order of the sentence, but the meaning remains the same. What is known to all that he is going to succeed? So in this case also, that he is going to succeed is the noun clause. Why is it the clause? Because it is having a verb of its own. Is going is the verb. Is going to succeed, so is going is the verb. To succeed is the infinitive. But why subordinate? Because that he is going to succeed cannot stand on its own. It needs the help of another main clause to support it, to help it stand. It is like the crutch on which the main clause is, which requires the help of the main clause to stand on its own. It cannot stand on its own firmly. Isn't it so? That is why it is a subordinate clause. Now let's see in the role of an object. Say I tell, she gave me more than I could have asked for. The kind lady gave me more than I could have asked for. The kind lady gave me what? More than I could have asked for. So here you see, if I want to put a full stop after the kind lady gave me, full stop, it makes a complete sentence. It conveys complete sense. But if I choose to select this part, more than I could have asked for, does this portion convey a complete sense? No. But more than I could have asked for, here there is a finite verb. Could have asked is a finite verb, right? So this is where we understand that this is the subordinate and this is the main. Because the kind lady gave me, full stop is possible. More than I could have asked for, only this part. Pick up with a forceps. Can you make it stand alone? No. When we join the two, the kind lady asked me more than I could have asked for. The kind lady gave me more than I could have asked for. So the kind lady gave me what? What did the kind lady give me? More than I could have asked for. So in this way, we can very well understand that who and what, these are the two interrogative words which answer the question or which help us to find, to detect, to point out a noun clause. Isn't it so? Now we shall try finding out the preposition, the object to a preposition. Okay, how so? This was object to verb. Gave what? So object of the verb gave. Now object to a preposition. I have no objection to whatever you want to do with your life. So I have no objection, full stop. If I say I have no objection to, within brackets, it. I have no objection to, within brackets, it. Can't we put a full stop after this? Yes, we can. But if I tell you, whatever you want to do with your life, whichever word you may add, one word, you cannot complete this sentence. Whatever you want to do with your life, you cannot complete this sentence. Isn't it so? That is why this is the dependent clause. It cannot stand firmly on its two legs. It is like a child. It needs the mother to carry it. It's like a toddler. Okay. So that is the subordinate clause. And as I have already told you that it is the subordinate clause which is actually exhibiting the categorization, noun, adjective, adverb, whatsoever. So I have no objection to whatever you want to do with your life. So which is the subordinate clause? Whatever you want to do with your life. Because you cannot make any complete sentence with this part. But if I tell you, I have no objection to bracket it, full stop. Yes, it makes a complete sentence. I have no objection to it. In place of it, I am putting whatever you want to do with your life. So it is answering the question to I have no objection to what? And I am always telling you that remember, whenever you want to find noun clause, what is the question you are going to ask? What? You ask the question with what? You ask the question with who? In this case, what? I have no objection to what? Whatever you want to do with your life. Now, whatever you want to do, see, what is the verb, the finite verb? Want. That is why it's a clause and not a phrase, because it is having a finite verb. I don't have any objection. Don't have. Again, a finite verb. So both clauses, as I told you in the preliminary stage, in the definition of clause is going to have a subject and also a finite verb of its own. Not a non-finite verb. So both they are having the finite verbs, but one can stand on his own feet, the other cannot. So is that clear to you? Object of preposition. 2. Let's practice one more with object. If I tell you, I am not answerable to you for what I have done. I am not answerable to you for what I have done. So I am not answerable to you for, within brackets, it, full stop, the sentence complete. I am not answerable to you for it. But what I have done, take this part with a forceps and see. Can you make it stand on its own legs? What I have done? No. You cannot. Now I know there are many out there who are going to ask, what have I done is an interrogative sentence, ma'am? Then no. What have I done is not an interrogative sentence in this particular sentence. Isn't it so? So you have to go logically. You just cannot put a question mark and say, okay, this is an interrogative sentence. No. It's not like that. So, coming back to the original mother sentence, let's see. So I'm not answerable to you for it. Main clause. Verb, have. Have is the verb. Definitely. I have no objection. I'm not answerable to you. Sorry. I'm not answerable to you for what I have done. Am is the main verb. Am is the finite verb. And in that portion, what is the finite verb? Have done. Have done is the finite verb. Isn't it so? Have done is the finite verb. So in this case, when I am asking the question, I am not answerable to you for what? What I have done. What I have done. So this portion is the noun clause. It is acting as object of the preposition for. I am not answerable to you for bracket it. What is it? What I have done. Now those of you will ask me, ma'am, what I have done can stand as an interrogative sentence. I'll come to them. What I have done is not interrogative. Interrogative format is what have I done. But when I am writing this as an assertive sentence, then what is the construction? I am not answerable to you for what I have done. I am not saying I am not answerable to you for what have I done. What have I done is the interrogative format. What I have done is the assertive format. Because in interrogative, I have always told in other videos that there is a breakup between the two verbs, the supporting and the main. So these were two friends. I did this work, and now someone else comes and say, I'll not allow you to be friend. And what does the third party do? She creates a breakup between the previous bond of friends. And the sentence become, I did this work. Did I do this work? Breakup. Did do. Who is in middle? I. So if I tell you I am singing, and now interrogative, am I singing? So between am and singing, I come and sits. I'll not allow am singing to be friend. I'll come and sit and break the bond. So I am not answerable to you for what I have done. See, what I have done can never sit alone. Who can stand alone? If the sentence would have been, what have I done? That is interrogative format. But that is not the case here. What I have done is the case. So that is the object of the preposition for. That is the object of the preposition for. With this, I also taught you a very important construction. Don't confuse this. This what I have done and what have I done. Okay. Now next, let's take the example of a subjective complement. So what is a subjective complement? She was the best girl the school had ever known. So she was what? The best girl the school had ever known. She was what? Yes, this can also be an adjective clause, but I am treating this as a noun clause and discussing. So she was what? So can you say that it's an object? She was what? No. This is subjective complement. So what is compliment? When we go to party and we dress very well, we know that people give us compliments. You're looking good. You're looking gorgeous. Sometimes we also get negative compliments. You are not looking good. You're not looking up to the mark. So negative compliment, whatever be it, positive or negative, a compliment is a compliment. Okay. So what is a compliment? It is something that describes you. It is something that adds to your attribute, to your qualities, complementing, adding to your attribute, describing your qualities, describing your attributes, the qualities that you have in yourself. That is a compliment, complimenting you. So she was the best girl the school had ever seen. So she was what? Actually, the question here is she was how? She was the best girl the school had ever seen. Here, the best girl the school had ever seen is actually describing she, complimenting she. This portion is complimenting she. That is why it's a subjective compliment. Is that clear to you? So if I tell you that we were all that he could ask for. We were everything that he could ask for. So we had everything in us that he could ask for. Okay. So in this case, what is the implication? All that he could ask for is actually complementing the subject we. We were what? We were how? All that he could ask for. All that he